And then finally, I want to cover some other miscellaneous factors. So other miscellaneous factors in this situation are pretty horrendous, actually. Apparently, Jacob Blake's three children were in the car at the very time that this whole thing happened. So he was walking around and he was getting gunned down, and they were a witness to the whole thing. So that is just horrendous. The cops presumably knew that. They knew, they pulled him over, or they stopped him for a reason. They knew the kids were in the car, and they didn't do anything to secure them. They didn't do anything to prevent him from getting back into the car with them and fleeing with them. The whole thing just looks to me like there were four cops who were standing around. This guy walked away. They realized that they screwed up, so they pulled a gun and they shot him 7 times in the back. Now, there are a lot of people coming out, and they're also saying that he had a very long criminal record. He had a lot of history of trouble with the law, and so they're going to use that as an excuse to justify what happened in this case. They're going to say, well, this is a criminal, and this is a gangbanger, and this is somebody with a lot of problems, and why would we risk a cop's life for his life? So they're just saying, well, if a cop feels threatened, his life is more valuable than somebody else's life, because that's what they believe, and they openly admit that, and they just say this is how it should be. And so that justifies the shooting. In my mind, that it doesn't at all, right? What his criminal background does has nothing to do with whether or not he should have been shot and killed in this particular case. Now, if the police did an analysis on him, they stopped him and they said, we have already identified this guy. We know who he is. We know he's got a history of assault against police officers, or he's got a history as being related to some gang, or he's an active present threat. If that is the situation, more than just a warrant for unpaid charges or unpaid child support or something like that, that is not justification for death, okay? There are other legal remedies to deal with those things. A warrant, you post a bond, you go to court, you show up, you fix it. If you've got a prior criminal history, it can't be used to prove that you're going to go do something else in similarity to that. It's not the same thing. You can't use that and say this past is evident of future crimes. It's not how our system works. It's not how society works. People can get in trouble, can pay their dues, and can reacclimate into society without having a target over their back for the rest of their lives. So if these cops showed up and they knew that this guy was an actual threat for some reason, then that analysis may change. But based on what we see, there's no evidence of that at all. So a lot of people are trying to smear his name and all of that just because of the fact that he's got a past criminal history. You can have your opinion on that if you want, but his prior record has nothing to do with what happened in this case, unless the police can articulate some reason as to why he was such a threat. Now, there may be more coming out to this story. Like I said, if there was a gun in there, if there was a gun on his side or under the seat or something like that, this whole analysis changes. Everything changes. But we just don't see that right now. It has been about 24 hours, and so we'll see. We'll give it some more time before we come to a final conclusion. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more to discuss about this, but we have to chime in and watch the watchers. This is our 2 cents. This is us with many, many years of experience in this field. And the real question is, what do you think? What do you think about these factors? Do you think that this was justified or this was not justified? Drop it down in the comments if you have any one particular problem with any of these factors that we've created here, any problems with this analysis. Let's finish it out. The other miscellaneous factors are going to go to 0 for the police because they didn't do anything admirable here, and 1 to the defense because his kids were in the car. The cops knew that, and they shot him anyways. So let's do a calculation. So the cop has 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we've got 8 to 3. And in my opinion, based on this analysis on these different factors, if we're going to weigh them all together, this shooting was not even close to being justified. Many other things that could have taken place here that just didn't. So these police are, of course, going to be held under a high level of scrutiny, and rightfully so. This was not something that this man should have been shot in the back 7 times. Hopefully he survives. Hopefully his family is pulling tight, saying their prayers, and helping him get through this situation. And same goes to the cops and to their family. This is a situation that they didn't ask to be involved in, and they're making difficult decisions, so I can empathize with them. But at the same time, they need to be held accountable for their actions. If they're shooting people in the back 7 times and they shouldn't be doing that, they need to be held accountable for that, and police departments across the country should as well.